Little control mirror, though. The Zorius v Jeskai anyway.
Nikolich up, and we have a Teferi on both sides of the battlefield.
Bit different. We've become a little accustomed to dueling Jace the Mind Sculptors in formats like Legacy and more recently Modern. Teferi mirror is pretty new. Usually your goal as a Teferi player, if you have it first, is to stop the other player from getting Teferi online.
Phillip Lorren been around competitive Magic for a while. I remember I first met him playing Worlds, I think 2011, the last Worlds. A decent Magic player here. This should be a good match. See Colonnade activated on Phil's side. Path to Exile taking care of Colonnade. And we'll see Dispel. That one's certainly out of the sideboard for Lorren.
When you just look at cards in hand, Phillip Lorren, when we tuned in here, had twice as many cards as Nikolich.
Multiple Dispels as well.
It's really hard to win a counter war when you're so far down on cards.
Yeah.
And that mana efficiency that you're alluding to there with Dispel makes it even harder.
Snapcaster Mage from Nikolich. Hey, man, you like this one. There was a spell snare in the graveyard. Yeah.
When he picked up the graveyard, I knew exactly what he was looking for. Can I Snapcaster Mage a spell snare on this Snapcaster Mage? I have done that one a lot.
We can only hope. And that's what's going to happen. A clean answer to Snapcaster Mage. And now Nikolich coming back. We'll cycle that Hieroglyphic Illumination. And the counter war is won by Lorren.
Yeah, he wanted to Illumination into exactly Dispel there. But now he's just very far behind.
So Snapcaster and Colonnade take down Teferi. That's right, that Colonnade has Vigilance. It actually matters. I believe there's a Logic Knot in Phil's hand. And he'll untap 2 lands from the Teferi trigger. Nikolich picking up the cards, knowing that he will need all of that clock for game number 3.
Yeah, we're just 13 minutes and change going into a deciding game in a blue-white X mirror. They take some time.
Well, let's look quickly at the sideboard. I know we've seen some Dispels, so I assume those have come in.
Yeah, you can bet on that. On Ben Nikolich's side, 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Negate, 2 Dispel, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Anger of the Gods, a Wear Tear, and a Celestial Purge. So it's going to be just Counter Magic and Vendilion Click. So the 2 Negates, the 2 Dispels, those 2 Vendilion Click, all that stuff plays here. Rest of the stuff definitely for other matchups. For Phillip Lorren, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Dispel, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Rest in Peace, a Baneslayer Angel, a Lyra Dawnbringer, a Blessed Alliance, a Vendilion Click of his own, a Celestial Purge, a Negate, and a Disdainful Stroke. So more of the same here. He has his own Vendilion Click, 2 Dispels, a Negate. That stuff's all great. The Disdainful Stroke's also quite good. This is a Cryptic Command mirror. There's Teferi Hero Dominarias on both sides, so that one can have some pretty serious impact. Surgical Extraction is very medium against Snapcaster Mage. Typically, when I'm playing a mirror with Snapcaster Mage, I would not bother with that kind of effect, though some players do like it.
So do you think both players, I'm sure, have asked what the time on the clock is here? They're pretty seasoned. Do you actually want to sideboard differently if you're on either side of this, knowing that you're at 12 minutes for the game 3?
12 minutes with 2 players who know what they're doing, playing at a crisp pace, I think that they can finish a match. If it were the case where I thought that my opponent was going to play a little slowly, I had to close, I would be looking at stuff like Baneslayer Angel, maybe try to close quickly. But 11 minutes at a crisp pace, they can get it done. There's also just some games where one of the players just misses land drops, and it can actually be a runaway, even in a slow mirror like this. And pretty big start here. Phillip Lorren opens up on Suspending Ancestral Vision. That's very powerful in these mirrors.
Down to 3 and we go. Mana set up on Nikolich's side. He has 2 duels. Steam Vents and Hallowed Fountain. Colonnade for Lorren. And Nikolich, I was waiting to see if we'd see a punish, something like a Search for Azcanta. He does not, so Lorren will take the opportunity to opt.
Yeah, so far, Lorren has opened up with a pretty serious card advantage spell. That Visions does come off Suspend. Nikolich just making land drops, though. Land drops is a lot of what the matchup's about.
There are things I like. I feel like in the flex slots, Ryan, Lorren has a bit of an advantage here. We look at cards like Spell Snare on Phillip Lorren's side, like these Ancestral Visions, cards that Nikolich doesn't have. They all seem really powerful in this matchup.
Right. If you resolve Vision, it makes it really easy to make your land drops and pull ahead and counter wars. And Nikolich's answer is going to be something like his sideboard negates. And with Lorren having Spell Snare, that can really fight that battle.
I love this play from Nikolich. Attempt end step to bounce a land and draw, and that's going to work. We see that as kind of a tempo play in these blue mirrors.
Yeah, so the mirror is largely about making land drops. So if you can push your opponent back on mana, that's a big deal. In terms of just the game eventually is going to involve a lot of having a lot of mana and cards in hand to fight counter wars.
Yeah.
And being pushed back on land drops is going to hurt you there.
Well, what I love is, especially against an opponent who's going to resolve Ancestral Visions, counter-drawing his lands is actually a way to make this irrelevant. I mean, Phil is going to have to discard the hand size here.
Yeah, so he can make one land drop. There's only so much he can do with his mana at sorcery speed, so yeah, he's going to have to discard some of his bounty here.
I think he's at 10 cards, or 9 cards in hand? 2 discards? Sure.
Kind of reminiscent of cracking your opponent's standstill at their end step.
He has to discard 3 cards? No, he's choosing which ones to keep.
Yeah, he has an abundance of lands here. You want to maintain some of those. Again, the matchup is largely about making land drops. But he's in a position where now he's down on mana. Nikolich at 5 lands, is 4, probably going up to 6 on the next turn, where it's going to be tough for him to leverage something like a Teferi. Go back to Nikolich's turn. Amusing play there. He did shock for his 5th land. It was just a Steam Vents because the Ancestral Vision might have led to some kind of war on the stack there. But they ended up doing nothing with his mana.
And that's the full play set of opts from Phillip Lorren.
In matchups where Terminus is a card that matters, hanging back on those makes some sense. Just shaping his hand in a matchup like this, making sure he's hitting his land drops and trying to find some action.
Electrolyze is the action from Nikolich. Going to start using that mana advantage, turning it into some burn.
And that's one of the strengths of Jeskai in a matchup like this. Games that Lorren wins involve taking entire control of the game, resolving powerful permanents and leveraging them, winning counter wars. Whereas Nikolich casting Electrolyze is just this chip shot. It costs him no cards. It's good for some damage. At some point, you'll see him start casting Snapcaster Mage end step. You can just go for that damage as well. And you just kind of put your opponent's life total under a little bit of pressure over time. Makes your Vendilion clicks better in the matchup. It's a pretty serious edge to have as long as you're able to keep in the game in the early game. And he has accomplished that.
Yeah. Field of Ruin here from Lorren. I mentioned before, big finish on Lorren's side. Yeah, it was 25th at the Magic World. The last Magic time we had Magic World Championships, which was a Pro Tour. He was top 25 there.
That's a very good tournament.
Right now, Nikolich still pressing a small mana advantage as he makes land drop number 9. He has 9 to Lorren's 7. Life total still pretty even. Let's pass back. Of course, we're going to keep that eye on Phil Lorren's life total as Nikolich is the Jeskai player, so he'll try to burn down. And at this point, they're just trading land drops.
Right, and part of the importance of making land drops is you don't want to be the first player to flinch in the matchup. If you're the first player to commit a sorcery speed action and then you lose that counter war, which you are kind of likely to do because you only have so much mana left over because you started on something like Teferi that costs 5, suddenly your opponent has free reign to just cast Teferi on their turn, and then they can just pull ahead that way.
Looks like Phil Lorren's going to try to make the first move. On Nikolich's end step, it's going to be Snapcaster on Opt. So not a huge play, but he's trying to get just some incremental pressure down.
Yeah, the Snapcaster Mage, over time, it'll force some actions. Notably, the Snapcasters in Nikolich's deck, when they're attacking, are more powerful than those in Lorren's deck.
How do you feel about this? Surgical Extraction. This is out of the sideboard for Phil. He topped that off Opt and is going to go ahead and cast it.
It's interesting to use it so proactively. I assume he's targeting that Cryptic command there.
Well, right. Yeah, he is targeting Cryptic command. And what I like about this is he's just hoping to get some of them out of Nikolich's hand.
So he's trying to get him out of the hand, and also if he's trying to resolve something like a Teferi on his turn, if the Surgical resolves is great, you get to see the hand as well, but you're just tapping Nikolich's mana.
Yeah, we're still on Nikolich's end step here. And that's the important part. So now Nikolich will start fighting back. Looks like a Snapcaster of his own. That'd be a great way to get rid of the Surgicals, to just even do something like Snapcaster, Cryptic Bounce the Snapcaster.
Yeah, you just Snapcaster, put the Cryptic command on the stack, and then you stop worrying about whatever else happens in this chain, but that Spell Snare is going to cause some fits.
Spell Snare on the Snapcaster Mage. Now, Nikolich has a very nice out here. If he has Logic Knot and simply delves away that Cryptic command, then he's effectively countered the Surgical in an uncounterable way.
Right, and honestly, leading on the Snapcaster Mage, because of that Spell Snare, he's going to be a little bit punished. He's got to tap more mana on his own turn here.
Right.
I would have liked to have just seen Logic Knot, Exile Cryptic Command, be done with it.
Logic Knot for 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Just under 5 minutes remaining.
If he doesn't have Cryptic Commands, you could make the argument that maybe you could just pass. His hand would have to be some pretty specific things, like copies of Negate, Dispel to fight over a counter war. But it's really tough to just let this resolve.
Spell Snare counters the Snapcaster Mage. Now Nikolich will Logic Knot targeting the Surgical Extraction. And he's going to do that play, Logic Knot for, well, it looks like more than one. Now, there's no reason Phil pays any amount here, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that extra delve is about.
Okay.
I guess he's just exiling a Snapcaster Mage so that a future Surgical Extraction couldn't just go for that. So I do like that for that reason.
That's so neat. He's actually exiling just because he doesn't want the card in his graveyard.
Right.
Cool play. Now we go back to Phil's turn. He has successfully tapped 4 of Nikolich's mana. Plays Field of Ruin. You see, Phil's hand is Jace, the Mind Sculptor, and multiple Logic Knots. He's paying some attention to the clock here, and I think he's trying to make some pro action. We see Negate from Nikolich. Logic Knot from Lorren. There is 5 mana up on Nikolich's side, so it'll have to be a Logic Knot for 6. And that's what it'll be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Phil delves enough to make this a hard counter. Dispel from Nikolich. There's another Logic Knots in Lorren's hand. Does he have enough cards to make this one a hard counter? He's got 3 cards left.
Yeah, 2 mana he could tap as well, though. If he tapped out, then you would know any additional counterspell makes him lose the counter war.
Yeah, there's also the worry that even if you win this counter war, right, Nikolich just untaps and Teferis away your Jace.
I did spot that one of Nikolich's leftovers is Lightning Helix. That card, not very good in the matchup, definitely not good in the situation.
Yeah. There is not a Colonnade in play for Nikolich. We see Mana Leak. Ooh, Mana Leak on the Negate. Nikolich can pay.
It's funny because if he does pay, that would mean the only possible thing that he could have to continue fighting the war would be additional Dispel, or I suppose Spell Snare could potentially be on the radar.
So it is paid, and Phil Lorren will Logic Knot. He has to crack a fetch land. Yeah, Dispel or Spell Snare would be a pretty big blowout.
You can't Spell Snare Logic Knot, but Dispel would be a big deal.
Right, okay, yeah. Actually, delving does add to the X.
That one was a big bummer for me when Logic Knot started taking off.
Yeah, their 2 mana counter spell, it can't be Spell Snared.
Yeah, it's just better than Counterspell.
Looks like Logic Knot for 2 should work, and I think this will resolve. So now, you mentioned there might be a Bolt in Nikolich's hand. See what Lorren does with the Jace.
Makes a lot of sense to start with the +2. I don't care who you target.
And he will. He will Fate Seal with it.
And Nikolich is low on cards, so that does make sense.
And he's managed Nikolich's mana. There's no Colonnade, as I mentioned, on Ben's side. And Lorren attacks for 2. Nikolich down to 16. We untap. Can Nikolich now answer the Jace? A Teferi would be mighty clean here. Even a pair of red spells could take care of the Planeswalker. 4 mana. Maybe just a Cryptic bounce draw.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
If it were Teferi -3, he'd have to be concerned about the Snapcaster Mage, so that Lightning Helix does cover that.
And here's where we have Teferi -3. Or is it +1? Is Nikolich that greedy?
Depends what he has paired with the Lightning Helix.
-3 tucks away the Jace. Now, Lorren does have colonnades as we go under 1 minute remaining in the round. I do like how proactive the players have got. Here's Lightning Helix shooting down Snapcaster Mage.
Nikolich does have a Field of Ruin at the ready.
Right, I think, yeah, 5 for the Teferi, 2 for the Helix. There is enough for the Field of Ruin.
And this is one of those edges that Jeskai can have in the matchup, is that Lorren doesn't have anything like a Lightning Bolt to take the Teferi down.
Well, there was a play that Lorren, now he's activating Colonnade and swinging. He could have saved it, though, right? If he'd Field of Ruined the Field of Ruin on Nikolich's side, because Lorren has 2 Colonnades, he could have then activated the one that Nikolich didn't target back and could have attacked the Teferi.
I think he has something else on his mind, though. He has a Teferi of his own in hand. So he gets Field of Ruined here. That means Nikolich only has two lands up once this resolves. And there's a reasonable chance that his Teferi is just good.
All right, and we are going to hit turns. This is turn 0 on Phillip Lorren's side. Ryan, is it possible that either player can win this in turns? Or are we looking at a player to hope to establish a win and then get a concession?
I think that it's going to be the latter there. If Nikolich were the player that were ahead, I'd be inclined to say that he could deal 13 damage.
Yeah.
But Lorren winning with Nikolich at 19, just getting Teferi online now, I don't think that's going to happen.
And he will plus. Wondering, he could have tucked away the other Teferi, but he wants to protect his own. So turn 1 is Ben Nikolich's. He will draw off his own Teferi. Can he find a way to answer his opponent's Planeswalker?
Yeah, the thing about tucking is his Teferi would go very low on loyalty. He doesn't want to do that. Next turn, he gets another crack at it with the Colonnade, and Nikolich's Teferi doesn't have enough loyalty to tuck Lorren's.
It feels like in an untimed round, Lorren, well, still anyone's game. I think Lorren has a slight advantage because of more loyalty and because he has Colonnade.
Yeah, I think that Lorren has pulled ahead depending on what Nikolich's leftovers are. He does not have very many cards, and he was kind of posturing like one of them was a land there.
Snapcaster Mage from Nikolich. On Electrolyze, he'll shoot the Teferi for 2.
Trying to find a Lightning Bolt or a Lightning Helix, I imagine.
This also means that Teferi can't just tuck away the opponent's Teferi, that Lorren would lose his Planeswalker. And Nikolich finds Lightning Bolt.
That's a big swing.
This is big.
He needs something to block against this second Celestial Colonnade, though. His Teferi is under duress.
And we'll see Path to Exile from Lorren takes care of the Snapcaster Mage. Turn number 2.
I think just one card left over for Nikolich.
If Nikolich has something like a Path, perhaps this works.
I want to say Surgical Extraction, Ancestral Vision is the hand for Lorren.
It is Surgical Extraction. We'll start there, Lorren, to 11. He's going to target. See if he's trying to play for a win or a draw here. Like, right, if you want... hitting Electrolyze makes it feel like we're going for that draw.
Well, he knows that there's nothing for the Colonnade once this resolves. I think is the big part of this spell. So now he gets to Colonnade to the Teferi. I don't think his deck's just like not capable of winning with just one more turn. So he's going to make this play and try to demonstrate that he's ahead. You know, suspend the vision, attack with the Colonnade, and say, "All right, you know, I think I'm winning this game, Ben. Do what you're going to do."
If you're not interested in a draw, I'm going to argue that I'm in a better spot, but choice is yours. And with the tournament as it lies in the standings, I assume Nikolich is going to take the draw here.
Right.
Visions is suspended, though, for Lorren.
Yeah, they were not at the worst day 2 record. They're 7-2, and the cutoff was 6-3.
Turn 4 is Phil Lorren's. This is his last turn as Ancestral Visions ticks down to 3. Draws a card. Jace the Mind Sculptor and Remand for Nikolich.
Typically in a blue mirror, you want to remand your own spells. Pretty easy to recast a Jace.
Another Jace from Phil Lorren. +2. Keeps the card on top, says go. Vendilion Click from Nikolich. Stone card's a land, though. Can't do much about that.
Nope.
You can crack the fetch. So I have a question. In this situation, when someone keeps the card on top, when you crack the fetch, do you check the top card?
Nah. The only reason that they would make you keep a good card is if they were trying to really get into your head and make you mad.
If they're a maniac.
The only idea is that they're trying to make you angry, and so just taking a line where you know they're not going to get you with that, I think, is the smart play.
And it's going to be a draw. How